Hey everybody, welcome into 4 Down Territory. I am Kyle Madson from NinersWire.com. Joining me right here, just to my side, that's Doug Farrar. He is the managing editor of Touchdown Wire. And we talked pre-agency last week, and now we're going to talk about post-agency? Post-agency.
Yeah, we can call it free agency because it's free. You know, it happened.
Okay.
Most of it happened.
Cool. Yeah, and post-agency doesn't quite roll off the tongue. So
no, we talk about that's like after the draft. We go, what happened back there? And it's all a blur.
Very
it's
good.
All a blur right now.
We're going to talk about what happened in free agency. And now that kind of the first big wave and maybe even the second wave have died down, what team are you looking at that did the most to bolster their chances next season?
Well, I'll start with the Dolphins, who didn't do a lot, but what they did could really pay off. Last year, they traded for Tyreek Hill to put their offense over the top, which happened. And this time around, at least when Tua was healthy, this time around, they traded for Jalen Ramsey to hopefully do the same for the defense. And Ramsey isn't quite the pass defender he was a few years ago when you could argue he was CB1 in the NFL, but he's still an excellent overhang cornerback. He can come down and make plays. He can press receivers out of their routes in short to intermediate areas. And it's a big addition for a pass defense that really needed it because, you know, Byron Jones is gone. Xavier Howard, you're kind of wondering like what the future is. So that's a nice, you know, and he's a tone setter on the defense, you know, no matter what, for better and sometimes worse, depending on his mood. But that's a good deal. And then maybe my favorite deal of free agency. I gave this I couldn't like put all the pluses in the header of the listicle. A++. They signed former Titans linebacker David Long to a 2-year, $11 million deal, larceny, that may rise to, it is. He is one of the most underrated 3-down linebackers in the NFL. He can stop run fits. He can cover everything from curl flat to hook curl. I was watching his tape last week, and there were some times where he would like motion out the corner and defend guys. Yeah. So he can do everything. And then you factor in that Miami also bagged defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. You may have heard of him as a free agent. I can't wait to see what this defense looks like in 2023 because the front was good with Phillips and Christian Wilkins. They've got all those guys, and now the back 6 or 7 is starting to come together. We also have to mention the Lions and their secondary getting Cam Sutton and Emmanuel Mosley as their new corners. Sorry about Mosley, Kyle. And they get CJ Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles on a team-friendly deal also to pair with Kirby Joseph, very underrated safety. They've completely remade their secondary in this free agency period, and all on really team-friendly deals. Just a series of home runs for them. And I don't think depending on where you are with Jeff Okudah, I don't think it really precludes the Lions from taking the best cornerback available at 6 because, you know, Sutton and Mosley are maybe shorter term guys. Gardner Johnson has a lot of gas left in the tank. Joseph is, the guy made Aaron Rodgers' life miserable last year. Very underrated. And I loved him coming out of college. So I think maybe if you can get Joey Porter Jr., whoever you like, Christian Gonzalez or whoever is your flavor of the year. They could go edge, they could go in different ways, but I think that what the Lions did with their secondary in this free agency period on a series of team friendly deals for guys who really fit their defense, I think they might have had the best free agency grade overall just based on that.
Yeah, if the Lions weren't already the favorite in the NFC North, they definitely are now for me.
Yeah.
And then they lose Jamal Williams and they pick up David Montgomery, who I think is a down for down better player. You can argue with the process of paying a running back, but I love that ad. Their offense is going to hum, and now their defense has just taken that step up that it needed to get to last year to get them to the playoffs. I think they're going to win the NFC North now. But I want to stick in the NFC North because I just want to shout out the Bears here for what they did offensively. And we'll talk about this a little more later. But I love trading for DJ Moore. You bring in Robert Tonyan. I want to get into all that later. I just wanted to shout out the Bears, but I can't put them as my favorite free agency period because there was some other stuff that they did that I didn't like so much. And I think we're going to dive into that later. So let's actually get to that. Let's talk about the team now that either lost the most, made the most mistakes, just kind of made the worst moves. What team do you think kind of lost free agency here?
Oh, Broncos.
Oh boy.
Broncos. Well, you and I have discussed Mike McGlinchey, and before any of this happened, you and I were saying, I know on the Slack channel, like, why are people estimating that he'll get this much money? And then he did. And I think you and I were both like, what? So I have no money. They already have the biggest contractual albatross in NFL history with their quarterback. And now they give former 49ers right tackle Mike McGlinchey a 5-year, $87.5 million deal with $50 million guaranteed. Again, what? Through his career, Kyle, I think you'll agree, he's been a good, not great player. And given the importance of right side protection in the offense led by Russell Wilson, because you're running a right-handed motion offense, that's a lot of cash to give to a guy who does it pretty well, but not at a top-tier level. You add in losing defensive lineman Draymond Jones to the Seahawks. I'm kind of at a loss. I do like the acquisition of former Cardinals pass rusher Zach Allen, but at a time when the Broncos needed to do everything possible to build an airtight offense around Wilson, this was not the right answer, especially when you factor in the rumors of Denver being willing to offload one or more of their top receivers. I'm really not sure what's kind of going on over there.
Yeah, just a strange... The McGlinchey signing, I knew he was going to get paid more than the 49ers were likely going to be able to pay him, but it kind of seems like Sean Payton is now trying to build an offense like the one that Russell Wilson didn't like in Seattle, like a very run-first offense. That's where McGlinchey is going to have the most value. So I'm very confused by what Denver's doing, but they brought in Sean Payton to do his thing. So, I'm letting that play out. I want to circle back to the Bears real quick. And I think you're going to dive into this a little further later, but I just wanted to peg the process of throwing money at TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds after trading Roquan Smith. I don't really get it. I don't get what they're doing. They also didn't wind up with a right tackle. Maybe that's where they wind up going in the draft. It kind of pigeonholes them there at 9. Yeah. Just like I said, a little bit of a weird process. But what are the Cardinals doing? The Arizona, they're tearing it down. It looks like they signed Kaiser White, who's a whatever off-ball linebacker. They let Zach Allen go, who you just mentioned. They let Byron Murphy go, and now there's talk that they're going to trade DeAndre Hopkins. It's all in a year where Kyler Murray is likely out for the season because he tore his ACL so late in last year. I thought the Cardinals were trending up a couple years ago, and now they are like rock bottom. And
Kaiser White is a good coverage linebacker. He proved that with the Eagles last year, but they already have those guys. They keep drafting those guys in the first round, like the super athletic linebackers. Like, well, okay, what are we doing here? I remember during Jonathan Gannon's press conference at the Combine, he spent 60% of it answering questions about his defensive strategy in the Super Bowl from angry Eagles reporters, and he had the 1,000-yard stare about 3 minutes in. So I hope for his sake that wasn't a prelude to the way things go, but it kind of looks like it could be.
The other team I want to bring up here, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on this because we haven't really gotten to talk about it a lot. The Packers haven't done anything because they really can't.
Right.
Like Aaron Rodgers is just holding them hostage. So I wanted to put the Packers here, but I'm not sure at how much fault they are for their lack of movement in free agency.
Well, and of course, Aaron said he wasn't going to hold the Packers hostage, and he wasn't going to hold anyone else hostage. And what has he done? Nothing but that. I think. Well, the particulars with the Packers is they don't. And we're taping this on Monday the 20th at 10 whatever a.m. Pacific time. It's the financials, right? It's, when the cap hit goes from 40 million to 15 and who's going to take what money and what kind of draft picks, what team gets in return. So yeah, they really can't do anything. They lost Alan Lazard in free agency, who's a, good B receiver, got sort of an A- contract. And of course we're, doing that to make him happy. Even though we haven't traded for him yet. So, and I don't think that trade's going to happen for a while. So, yes, the Packers are held hostage. They're going to have to wait till the draft because they don't know where the money's going to go, where it's going to come from, who's taking what off. So, yeah, for all of Rodgers' promises that, I'm not going to get dramatic about that. I'm not going to hold everyone hostage. I'm not going to create as big a stink as I possibly can. Well, we kind of know what the story was going to be, and that's what it was.
So we might, for this third question, we might have a different answer based on how the Rodgers Jets thing plays out. But of all the free agency signings, which deal was the best in terms of player quality, team need, and price?
As weird as it seems to praise the Washington Commanders for anything these days, the signing of quarterback Jacoby Brissett, I know, right? Cats and dogs. The Jacoby Brissett deal, 1 year, $8 million, $7.5 million guaranteed, was an absolute win in all of those categories. He's coming off a season with the Browns in which he not only became a locker room leader, those guys loved him, with Deshaun Watson hanging over his head, but he also improved as a quarterback. I wrote about this in about November when Watson came back, and I said, Brissett deserves a shot to start with another team in the NFL. His decision-making process, which is was a little slow, sped up, and he was more willing to turn the ball loose instead of playing it safe. And again, his teammates couldn't say enough about how important he was in managing all the Watson-based dysfunction. The more I read the quotes, the more I'm thinking, I'm not sure how happy they are for this change. And given the way Watson played when he came back, I'm really not sure. The Commanders hope that Sam Howell is their future at the position. I think he could be. He was my QB2 in his class. But if there are any bumps in the road, Brissett is more than just a veteran mentor, a locker room guy. He can help the Commanders win games with his expanded skill set. And again, weird to praise the Commanders for anything. I thought they overpaid quite a bit for Daron Payne. But this about October or November, we could be saying Jacoby Brissett, he's doing it again. Look at this guy. So that to me was, you can go to the high ticket. We both love Javon Hargrave to the Niners because that front four is just insane now. But the real need value positional deals, I think Brissett's going to be a big, pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I have a hard time finding a lot of pushback on that. It'd be a super homer pick if I did say Javon Hargrave, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Well, we all know how good he is, and with that front, my God,
right? It's gonna be wild.
We are not looking forward to that up here in Seattle, by the way.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, with what Seattle did with the Legion of Boom for half a decade, they'll get over it, I'm sure.
True.
I'm gonna go a little more under the radar here, and I loved Robert Tonyan to the Bears because I think what Chicago is going to be able to do if they do this right, what they're going to be able to do with 12 personnel, 22 personnel, and DJ Moore and Chase Claypool, like they surrounded Justin Fields with weapons. That was their main goal this offseason to me. And Robert Tonyan just gives them, again, he's not the quality of DJ Moore. I don't even know if he's the quality of Chase Claypool, but you pair him with Cole Kmet. Those are two willing and capable blockers, two capable pass catchers. And it's just going to give them, going to give defenses nightmares to me with play action stuff they can do with passing out of 22 personnel and heavy sets. Like I just, big picture, I think the Robert Tonyan to the Bears signing is going to be one of the things that helps Justin Fields in that offense the most. And
well, he's a touchdown. Yeah, he's a touchdown machine when he gets the ball. And when you talk about 12 and 13 personnel, you talk about boot, you talk about run action, not play action, but run action, where and you're not quite sure, are they passing or are they running? The Eagles got to the Super Bowl with that concept. And the thing about the Eagles is they ran everything out of 11, and then it was like, stock, like the Peyton Manning Colts. It looked all vanilla, and then right after the snap, everything just went nuts. So with a guy like Fields, you can create that kind of chaos with different formations. I know the Chiefs had the second most 2 tight end sets last year. They had the most 3 tight end sets this year or last season. So, it's a copycat league. You could see a lot more of that with the Bears. And I think with that sort of run pass schism, the defenses get put in with a guy like Fields. Yeah, that could really pay off.
So we talk about the best deals. What deals were the worst?
Well, outside of the McGlinchey, which we've already discussed, I don't want to keep poking that thing, but the Bears needed linebackers. We discussed this before. They got TJ Edwards. That's a pretty team-friendly deal. I think for what he is, I think, that deal was fine. But Tremaine Edmonds, 4 years, $72 million with $50 million guaranteed. That makes him the 4th highest paid linebacker on a per year basis at $18 million AAV, just below Fred Warner, which I know that what that will mean to you. Fred Warner is the best linebacker in the NFL, and it's not even close. And it's not that Edmonds is a bad player. He had a very good 2022 season, but that's one very good season after 4 in which he struggled to match his on-field acumen to athleticism. I believe he came out of college as a redshirt sophomore, So you expected, it was just going to be more time. And maybe the light that came on stays on, but it's a lot to bet on, and the Bears are using a lot with which to bet. I did hear Randy Mueller, the former NFL GM, has the Athletic podcast with Mike Sando. He mentioned that he thought when Edmonds came out of college that he would put Edmonds as a situational edge rusher. And I heard that this morning, and I went back and watched the tape, and I'm like, yeah, actually, he could do that. And the Bears have like nothing at edge, so maybe they're looking at him. I'm not going to say he's going to be Micah Parsons, but maybe they foresee him as that kind of player. In that case, I like the deal a little more, but based on Edmonds' history, it's still kind of a reach.
Yeah, especially after the way they handled Roquan Smith,
right?
Who I think is a better player.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, you're just not going to pay an off-ball linebacker, but then they go and pay an off-ball linebacker. So like you said, maybe the plan is to use him more as an edge rusher, which would definitely make that make more sense. So the Edmonds deal, definitely weird, but I'm going to go with the guy we talked about a little bit last week, and Derek Carr. And that was 4 years, $150 million, $100 million guaranteed by the Saints. And okay, so help me out here, because I get that Carr now makes them, I think, probably the favorite in the NFC South, but when you look at what Geno Smith got, 3 and 105, when you look at what Jimmy Garoppolo got, that just seems to me like kind of a dramatic overpay for a player who's he's not going to win you a Super Bowl. So I'm trying to I'm still trying to work my way through that one. And I don't quite understand it based on kind of what we saw from the rest of the quarterback market. Well,
it's an interesting thing because his history with sort of alpha personality coaches in Gruden and McDaniels it didn't go well. Gruden's never happy with anything, and we later found out why. But for McDaniels to say after 1 year, no. Now, McDaniels did that with Cutler in Denver and drafted Tim Tebow, so I don't know what to tell you. I think Carr's better than people think, but were I to put him in with the other two quarterbacks you named, I say he's a little bit better than Garoppolo. Not as good as Geno Smith was last year, but he's sort of in that, I don't know, B plus A minus categories. He's not going to win you a Super Bowl, but you're not going to have to drag him kicking and screaming to a Super Bowl like some other guys. Yeah. I get the. But I think where the Saints are, I mean, they're in the low 20s with their first round pick they got in the Sean Payton thing. They've mortgaged so much. They were not going to get a premier quarterback in the draft. Not this year, maybe not next year. So, they're trying to be competitive, and they went out and got a guy. So, yeah.
All right, very good. That's 4 Down Territory. Make sure to join us next time. I'm Kyle Madson. He's Doug Farrar. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.